Humans are an inherently egotistical bunch, so much so that even with the idea of an apocalyptic disaster, they believe they would be the ones to bring it about. In my interpretation of the ethical dilemma, I chose to believe that it was aliens who came down and decided to test us and see how well we could survive if we were to send individuals into a bunker and come out after a year. The 5 individuals I chose for this task were Brittany, the teacher and PhD in botany and biology, Elizabeth, the veterinarian, Rachel, the psychologist/psychiatrist, Joe, the Olympic athlete, and Ume, the sumo wrestler and bilinguist. First up, Brittany, the teacher and PhD in botany and biology. She would utilize the bunker library to its effective nature, likely stocked with many survival books that she would pass out and help plan for the other survivors to increase the knowledge useful to go out into the world after the year in the bunker. Strange and Tunker, prominent authors on the topic of teaching efficiency, state ultimately learning is the phenomenon that happens as a result of interaction between teacher and student. And Vijay Kumar in 2016 commented that career and leadership skills, Vijay Kumar, who has career and leadership skills in 2016, talked about how a student's mind is like soft clay in the hands of his teachers. Brittany is also a PhD in both botany and biology, which would both be skills that would be helpful for general survival. Prolific writer for Udemy and Tomasovic in 2014 noted that biology is balancing taking advantage of the tools that we have and not destroying them for future generations. And regarding the usefulness of botany, experienced editor Oltman in 2015 talked about botany underpinning the modern world, not only agriculture, but medicine, material science, and chemistry. Having covered education, let's move on to medical expertise. Elizabeth, the veterinarian. Elizabeth would have knowledge of both human and animal anatomy, which would be invaluable. Humans have solid medical training. Dean of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania, Hendricks, in 2013, remarked that vets require just as much schooling as doctors of human medicine. He also made the observation that vets are the only members of the clinical profession that are used to dealing with more than one species and have a unique perspective on medicine as a result of that. Authors in DVM's Bofield and Brown in 2011 talk about how vets have knowledge and expertise to audit animal health, which would be why she would be useful for checking on things like meat and food safety. They also discuss how vets are trained to diagnose diseases and zoonosis, which is a disease that can spread from an animal to a human. Now that we've covered education and internal health, let's look at someone who can take care of our mental health. Rachel, the psychiatrist/psychologist. Highly educated and versed in both of her fields, she would be able to help keep everyone else sane. Award-winning writer Bean Mellinger in 2018 discussed that psychiatrists go through the same courses as general doctors, which means she could also help Elizabeth in the care of the group. Bean Mellinger also talked about how they must be able to analyze a patient's comments, symptoms, and test results to effectively diagnose and treat people, which means she would have a very analytical mind. And as a psychologist, she could have a specialty, which I chose to believe would be crisis counseling. Psychosocial rehab specialist Cherry in 2019 wrote that in addition to providing support, crisis counselors must also help clients develop coping skills. Associate Professor of Psychology Clinton in 2018 penned an article stating that psychological science is a principal contributor to the skills needed for diplomacy, which means that she would be very useful when it came to negotiating and talking to other groups of survivors. Now that our resources for everything mental and internal health are set up, let's look at our physical powerhouses. First up, Joe. Joe is an Olympic decathlon athlete, and as such would be extremely versed in training methods which he could use to help improve the physical fitness of the group for survival purposes. Longtime sports scribe Donovan in 2016 wrote an article saying that decathlons demand speed, endurance, strength, agility, flexibility, and coordination. He adds that every decathlon winner at the Olympic level earns the unofficial title of world's greatest athlete. Training others can also improve their overall health. Pro athlete and blogger Herford in 2018 advocates that if you exercise, your muscles will stay intact longer. She also stressed that it could drastically boost your immune system. Lastly, rounding out the group would be Umi, bilingual sumo wrestler. As a pro sumo wrestler, he would be used to a very regimented lifestyle with endurance testing. Japanese culture aficionado Cloutman in 2014 revealed that sumo wrestlers endure systematic abuse to toughen them up. She also discussed how they're even expected to control their demeanor and personality, which would be useful in handling the mental stress of a post-apocalyptic world. Being bilingual is beneficial to the group. Writer and broadcaster Vince in 2016 reports that bilinguals have better mental health and are resistant to things like dementia. She also talks about bilinguals being able to perform most tasks better than monolinguals. In conclusion, based on the original options provided, these are my fantasy survival draft picks. To recap, for optimizing survival and finding others, I chose Brittany, the teacher with dual PhDs in botany and biology, Rachel, the psychologist and psychiatrist for group mental stability and diplomacy, Joe, the Olympic athlete able to train and improve group health, Elizabeth, the veterinarian for physical care, and Umi, the bilingual sumo wrestler for endurance and his bilingual skills. This is a group I believe is humanity's best chance for survival in passing whatever test the aliens give them. I compel you to analyze the situation I've talked about, because while this may be a fabricated situation, many choices in life aren't.